Welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and serve the community. I am Reverend Margaret Weis. My pronouns are she, her, and today is the first of many Sundays that I have the joy and privilege of leading worship as your sabbatical minister. And I'll be doing so as my good friend and colleague and your own Reverend Lane Mayreed nourishes their spirit well on sabbatical. I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I have been here before, so I may look familiar to some of you. And if I don't, if I do or if I don't, either way, I hope that you'll come and introduce yourself after service so that I can put your name with your face and start to get to know who you are. Of course, I'm not doing this all alone this morning. There is a whole team that is co-creating our time together. Leading worship with me today, Ezekiel McGee, pronouns they, them, will be online as our worship associate. Dr. Brock Chesvold, pronouns he, him, for our music. Reverend Michelle Yates, she, her, with our story. Jack Cunningham, pronouns he, him, providing tech support. And Karen Labraco, pronouns she, her, as our grusher and online coffee hour host. If you're here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. Thank you for making it here to this worshiping community. We do have a visitors form that can be found in the chat for our folks online and can be accessed by scanning the QR code in your pews or on the back of your order of service. Please fill out this form so we can offer you a welcome beyond this morning's worship service. Now, before we take a moment to turn to our neighbor, let us take a moment to turn towards the camera, which is back there, I've learned, and greet our online worshiping community. Hello, good morning. And if you're online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting. And just a note to wait to share joys and sorrows online until later in the service, and that way they'll be visible to us here. If you're here presently, let us take a moment to turn to our neighbor this morning and offer a greeting and a welcome.
It's also generally, you have to.
Let us join together. It's always such a joy to see people so glad to see one another. It's a rowdy bunch this morning, the best kind. Let's join together and sing this morning. If you'll rise in body or in spirit, our opening hymn is number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Song In her book, Sisters of the Yam, Black Women and Self-Recovery, Bell Hooks states that as we examine our inner life, we get in touch with the world of emotions and feelings. Allowing ourselves to feel, we affirm our right to be inwardly loving. Once I know what I feel, I can also get in touch with those needs I can satisfy or name those needs that can only be satisfied in communion or contact with others. It's of course possible to connect with the people around us when we are out of touch with our inner selves, but it is also true that knowing our own emotions allows us to more fully see the humanity of others. Loving ourselves provides a richer understanding of the world around us. And while this action might always be a work in progress, the returns it provides are always worth the effort. Come, let us worship together. As Patty Goodwin lights our chalice at First Universalist Church and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow and please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. The social justice plate this month goes to rural and migrant ministry. Farm workers won minimum wage rights and overtime, fresh water, and access to toilet facilities in the fields and orchards due to this organization's diligence and support of other allies. Rural and migrant ministry continues to lead support for farm workers' rights. The children of farm workers enjoy a 2-week day summer camp in Western New York in July. In August, many of the older children attend an overnight camp that emphasizes leadership development. Other programs include a women's cooking co-op, English as a second language classes in the winter months, and assistance to teens as they apply for higher education. Rural and Migrant Ministries Justice Organization for Youth will present Theater of the Oppressed at our church September 23rd at 3:45 p.m. at a Fringe event. Your offering supports the important programming Rural and Migrant Ministry conducts in Western New York. Thank you for your generosity.
Tell me where is the road I can call my own.
Good morning, friends. Our story today is What the Road Said by Cleo Wade and illustrated by Lucy de Moyencourt. And I found, as I was looking up stories, that this is one of those they are sometimes giving to graduates, along with Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Have you ever wanted to go in a different direction? Have you ever wondered if there was something more? Something out there, something just different? I did too. Then one day, I was walking my usual way home when, out of nowhere, for no reason at all, almost as if it were magic, a road appeared. I could not believe my eyes, so I walked over to it, and I said to the road, "Where do you lead?" The road said, "Be a leader and find out." "How do I start?" I asked. The road smiled and said, "You have already started." "Well, what happens when I get there?" "We have just begun," said the road. "Do not skip straight to the ending. Enjoy the beginning and the middle, too." "Which way do I go?" "That is your choice to make," said the road. "But what if I go the wrong way?" The road curved a little, almost as if it was giving me a hug, and said, "Do not worry. Sometimes we go the wrong way on our way to the right way." "What if I get scared?" "That's okay. You are brave," said the road. "What does it mean to be brave?" I asked. The road guided me through a very gloomy forest. Even though I was frightened, I trusted the road. And as I took one step and then another step after that, the road gently whispered, "Being brave is when you are afraid of something, but you do it anyway. Do not let what scares you keep you from continuing on your path." "Will I always move forward?" "Not always," said the road. "Why not?" "Because sometimes you will stumble backward, and sometimes you will stand still." "What if I fall?" "Everyone falls at some point, sometimes at several points," said the road, "but I will always be there for you when you land." "What if I get lost?" "There may be some days that feel long and dark," said the road, "but I promise that no matter what, I will give you the evening stars and the morning sun to light your way." "What if I grow weary or get hurt?" "I will give you trees of all shapes and sizes to shelter you when you need to rest and heal," said the road. "What if I get lonely?" "You are never alone," said the road. "What if I change?" "Come with me," said the road. As I moved forward, the road introduced me to a caterpillar and a family of seeds. We did not stay long. The road began taking me on a journey through the seasons. I watched summer turn to fall and fall turn to winter, and as spring was upon us, I realized we had gone in one big, beautiful circle. I looked down and found I was standing in front of the caterpillar and the seeds once more, only the caterpillar was no longer a caterpillar, and the seeds had turned into flowers of every color swaying in the sun. The road then raised me up and said, all things grow and change. That is the magic of being alive. You too will find your wings. You too will bloom. No living thing is meant to stay the same. What if I need help on my journey? Ask your fellow travelers along the way. What if they are mean to me? Lead them to kindness, said the road. How? By being kind. What if they want to fight? Lead them to peace, said the road. How do I lead them to peace? By listening to their stories and telling them yours and reminding them that you are all on this journey together. What if the world around us is filled with hate? Lead it to love. How? By sharing the power of your love with it, said the road. What if something unexpected happens? Keep going. What if there are mountains that feel too tall to climb? What if there are rivers that feel too wide to cross? What if I get my heart broken? What if I feel stuck? What if giving up is easier? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, said the road. What if I can't do it? You can, said the road. How do you know? Because you have come this far, said the road. I said to the road, where do you lead? Where do you lead? The road said, be a leader and find out. Thank you.
I invite you now into a reverent time of sharing of joys and sorrows for our gathered community. If you'd like to, you might want to place your hand on your chest, over your heart, to be able to listen from a heart-centered place. As we place stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows that have been shared in our gathered community, and folks online are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. Our first is shared by Lois Baum on behalf of Johanna Connolly. Johanna's dog, Duke, has been diagnosed with a malignant tumor on his arm. He'll be going for treatment in Syracuse. Please hold Duke and Johanna in your hearts during this challenging time. From John Pelosi, my heart specialist performed a heart ablation procedure this past Tuesday, September 12th, at Rochester General, to correct the unhealthy condition of my heart beating in 2 different tempos at the same time. Too much jazz, he wonders? Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers, 1 tempo at a time.
It turned out well. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. This is from Sarah Singal. Yes. A joy, a fabulous UU turnout at the March to End Fossil Fuels on Friday. Special thanks to Howard, Connie, Clint, and Brian for keeping our voices heard. And from MJ Curry, also a joy, for Clinton and Brian, who opened the church for the climate rally to us, opened the facilities to the rally. Yes, and who really helped my friend who's recovering from brain surgery. Lovely. I'll just share a joy of being with you all today and my gratitude for this gathering. And we drop 1 final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Once again, we find ourselves waking to another beautiful day. We rise into a new year in the Jewish calendar, Shana Tova to all who celebrate Rosh Hashanah. As with any new day, our lives are full of this intermingling of joy and struggle, the news of natural disasters, conflict, terror, daily struggles abound, and sometimes it is too much. For some time, we've followed Mr. Rogers' advice to look for the helpers, and we do. We look for them and we find them. Sometimes we are them, and the helpers are tired and burned out and in need of care themselves. In those moments when we find ourselves yearning for the sense of hope, in those moments when we struggle to see a way forward, may we be reminded of our resilience and our courage. And together, may we lift up those in our lives who are in need of encouragement, care, and celebration. Years ago, I wrote down this recipe, and I'd love to share it with you today. It's called A Recipe for Resilience. It's been tweaked over time and might need to adjust as necessary. Sometimes it yields more servings than anticipated. Sometimes it needs a bit more of this ingredient or that. It comes from generations who have gone before me, and I've added my own flavor along the way. A recipe for resilience. 1 part courage. 2 parts tears of failure and doubt. 1 part deep listening. 1 part each of both silence and laughter. A dash of trust. A pinch of wonder. A heaping scoop of naps and snacks. In a separate bowl, mix together family, friends, those who challenge you to be your best self, those with whom you disagree. Add slowly to the pot. Add a bay leaf for whatever it is that bay leaves do. And then let it simmer for as long as you need, which is often longer than you realize or anticipate. Keep the heat at an even temperature. Hot enough to cook throughout, but not so hot that it burns the bottom. Can be served at room temperature, warm, even cold if necessary. Serve alongside your favorite soft blanket, cat or dog, or other soft item. Make often. Share with others. Hold on to the leftovers. You'll need them after a long day that challenges your soul. Let's sing together. Our hymn is number 159, This Is My Song. begin with a reading from my dear colleague, Reverend Angela Herrera. It's called A Prayer for Travelers. This is a prayer for all the travelers, for the ones who start out in beauty, who fall from grace, who step gingerly, looking for the way back, and for those who are born into the margins, who travel from one liminal space to another, crossing boundaries in search of center. This is a prayer for the ones whose births are a passing from darkness to darkness, who all their lives are drawn toward the light and keep moving. And for those whose journeys are a winding road that begins and ends in the same place, though only when the journey is completed do they finally know where they are. For all the travelers, young and old, aching and joyful, weary and full of life, the ones who are here and the ones who are not here, the ones who are like you and they're all like you, and the ones who are different, for in some ways we each travel alone. This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness and clear vision, for bread, for your body and spirit, for water, for your safe arrival, and for everyone you see along the way. The American author and writer Starhawk once wrote about community. They wrote, "We are longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned. We can only catch glimpses of it from time to time. Community. There are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us, eyes will light up as we enter, voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, some place where we can be free." In this piece, Starhawk speaks about what it feels like when we come into our own power. And I think for some of us, that happens when we're in community with others. It happened this morning when we greeted one another. For some of us, it's when we feel connected to that still small voice within ourselves. And for others, it might be the way we feel when we remember how small we are amidst the magnificence of the natural world. For many of us who are Unitarian Universalists, we might have this feeling when we're in the space of religious freedom. Perhaps it's the feeling we had when you were first welcomed into a UU congregation, or the way we felt when we were told that we were loved for all of who we are. This is the sense that we are held and powerful all at once, that we are indeed free. And it may be simultaneously exciting and terrifying. Maybe this is why we like to come together in community, even in the new ways that we've found to come together in this new world, our new normal amidst COVID-19. The ways we gather look and feel different, and they are different. And in some ways, they are the same as they've ever been. There's still this unity that we feel and a commitment we have to be in community with other people who are wondering about the big questions we are wondering about. There's a unity and a commitment that comes from knowing that our struggles aren't all that different, that we travel together, that we are free together. In our reading this morning, my colleague Angela Herrera explores the ways of the traveler, the way we step gingerly, sometimes move fast, and other times move with such care and intention. She acknowledges that life is sometimes a winding road where we somehow begin and end in the same place. She reminds us that all of us, each of us, is separate and united, an individual and part of a greater community of humankind. Indeed, whether we're going somewhere or staying home, we're still on a journey. Some of that journey is within our own mind and heart. And some of it is bound up in our relationships with others and ultimately with ourselves. Some of that journey happens when we move outside our comfort zone into a place that makes our palms sweat, our heart beat fast. And some of that journey we've chosen. Other pieces were chosen for us by circumstances or experiences that we didn't want. And just as we heard in our story this morning, part of that journey is having the courage to ask hard questions and even more courage to listen deeply for the answer and the next right thing. In that moment, when we find ourselves with a choice of which path to choose, of whether or not to listen to that still small voice of the angel and the devil on our shoulders, that moment of the pros and cons list, the moment of choice, of wondering, of commitment, what guides us? What is it that helps you find your way forward? Do you keep on moving forward because you're being propelled in that direction? Do you keep on moving forward because it's easier than stopping? Do you keep on moving forward because you are committed to an ultimate destination, however you might get there? Do you keep moving forward because you're strengthened by your progress? What is it that propels you forward? Are you moving out of fear or out of love? And what is it that helps you pivot when you need to? Who are the touchstones, or what are the touchstones for you on the journey, those breadcrumbs you leave to find your way back, the pieces you bring with you? How do you decide what comes next? So many questions, so much wondering, and I keep turning back to community. Former Unitarian Universalist Association President, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, says this. She says, "We sometimes wrongly say that the absence of creed is the most important to who we are as Unitarian Universalists. This is wrong. Any one of us could practice religious freedom at home on Sunday mornings. We could practice religious freedom all day long, every day, and never come into community. It is covenant that brings us out of isolation, covenant that brings us out of selfish concerns, out of individualism, to join ourselves to something greater, to become a part of a community that's working to practice love, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and wisdom together, to find better ways to live our lives and live in the world." Becoming part of community is practicing how to love. I love that. That's what we're doing here. We're practicing. We're asking these questions of ourselves, of each other, of our elders and our children, day in, day out, striving to live our values, opening ourselves to the possibilities, making the right choices, sometimes not making the right choices, leading authentic lives of integrity. We're practicing living into the answers of our big questions together. Now, I used to think that the only way to be a person of purpose and deep sincerity of faith was to be silent and still and alone. You know what I mean? Silent retreats, meditation, pilgrimages. Thoreau, alone in his cabin on Walden Pond, with only the silence and the birds and the rippling waters to join with him in his deepest thoughts. But you know what? Thoreau had friends. Emerson would come visit him. In fact, the cabin at Walden Pond was on Thoreau's family's land. And I've recently learned that his mother would often come to visit him, mostly to bring sandwiches, and, as you might have guessed, to do his laundry. It's a whole other sermon for a whole other day. But here's what I'm choosing to take from that. Even in those moments when we need to stop and be silent, to be removed, we still need other people to help us connect. In order to be pious or faithful or spiritual or deep, we don't have to denounce everything and everyone. We don't have to be silent and still. We can be, but it's not the only way. And I'm thinking about that book by Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love. Have you read this book or seen the movie maybe? In it, she reflects on this idea of being a pious and dedicated person. And at one point, she's at this ashram and she decides that she wants to take a vow of silence, be a person who's introspective and quiet and pious. She believes this is what's necessary to be a faithful person, to be quiet and still. But then, in a turn of events, she is assigned the role in her ashram of head hostess, a role that requires her to be outgoing and cheerful and speaking with lots of people all day. Now, this is who she inherently is. She is a boisterous and extroverted person. This feels natural to her, but she doesn't feel like it's pious enough. And then she's reminded of this saying, God dwells in you as you. God dwells in you as you. Whether you believe in God or not, this is a powerful statement. Let's replace God with love. Love dwells in you as you. Or in other words, there's only one you, and you are unique and wonderful and beautiful just as you are. You are one of the beautiful ways that love manifests in this world. And you have your own unique way of bringing that love out into a world that needs you. And if that means showing up in loud, boisterous, joyful ways, then that's an act of faith too. As Howard Thurman once said, ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Perhaps tuning into this truth again and again is the task of our lives. Sometimes tuning in requires silence and stillness, and sometimes it requires us to move forward in community, and it requires us to practice being together, belonging together. So how do we decide? How do we know when and how and in what ways to show up? How do we tune in to what makes us come alive and what calls us forward to be our authentic selves? In her book, The Next Right Thing, Emily Freeman writes about what helps us make decisions in our lives. She invites us to consider the role our soul and our heart play in those decisions. She invites us to reflect on the ways the divine shows up as well. And she invites us to ask ourselves one question when we are faced with a decision. Am I being led by love or pushed by fear? Am I being led by love or pushed by fear? In the process of considering what is the next right thing to do, in the process of deciding which way to go, in the process of discerning and searching and committing, am I being led by love or pushed by fear? Some have said that feeling the fear and doing it anyway is the definition of courage. But I would argue that it's deeper than that. It's listening deeply to what the fear is telling you and searching also for the love that's leading you. Maybe love is leading you somewhere scary. Maybe returning to public spaces is scary. Maybe confronting a conflict in your relationship is scary. Maybe coming out to your family is scary, or going to that recovery meeting is scary. Maybe telling your family and your friends that you're struggling is scary. And at the center of all those things is love. But if fear is pushing you, maybe it's time to pause and listen deeply for the voice of love, of community, of shared humanity. So I invite us all into that space of living the questions, into that place of practicing how to love. I invite us all to a place of finding that balance between who we are, what we need, and noticing and acknowledging our fellow travelers. What do you wish for your fellow travelers, and do you wish the same for yourself? Are you being led by love or pushed by fear? To what are you committing your life What makes you come alive? How is love dwelling in you as you? What helps you keep moving forward into a life of authenticity, of purpose, of belonging? Will you choose love or will you choose fear? May we all be led by love, and may we have the courage to follow. So may it be. Amen. And blessed be. Let's sing together. Our closing hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. You'll rise in body and spirit. Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame this morning. Let us read together the words printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to again place your hand over your heart. If you're joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you. To those of us who are here today, let's take a moment to just glance at one another, to see this gathering of lovely folks. As we prepare to go back out into a world that asks so much of us, as we prepare to re-enter our communities with all their beautiful opportunities and demands, let us breathe deeply. Let us take a moment to pause, to give thanks, to begin again in love. Let us be led by love and tune into what calls us forward. As we go out into this beautiful and broken world, let us bring with us our joy, our hope, and our promise of possibility. Blessed be. And let the people of the church say, Amen.